Here is Megyn Kelly, a former host on Fox News, with her insight into what happened.
Tucker Carlson hasn't actually been fired. He's still an employee of the Fox News channel. What happened was Suzanne Scott called him, she's the CEO, on Monday morning and said he was not going to be allowed to do any more shows and that he had been kicked out of his company email. And now they're going to have to negotiate an exit. Some reporting to me suggests that she said it's going to be an amicable parting, right? Isn't it? Completely catching Tucker off guard. But Tucker's not fired. That's my information, that he still needs to negotiate the exit and that right now he's not free to launch a podcast or a digital show or negotiate with other employers at all because he's still under contract. They pulled his show off the air. They also fired his executive producer, Justin Wells. And though he tried to find out why, they wouldn't tell him. They refused to tell him why. I mean, to me, that's just so disheartening. He's been at the company for years. He'd been in the prime time for 7 years and saw Fox News through one of the most difficult times in its history, the immediate era post Roger Ailes, where they didn't know left from right. They didn't know up from down. They really didn't have strong management leading the company. And they had lost two of their biggest stars, Bill O'Reilly and me, at least at that time. So Tucker takes over. It's a huge order, that he was given, and he did it. He smashed the ball out of the park. And he took a lot of risks, and he was heterodox. He pushed against the orthodoxy on so many different things. And typically Fox News liked that. So why? Why now? What was it that led them to treat their number one star with such disdain?
There it is. So he's still under contract.
So he can't do his own show.
He can't do anything else, at least until all that's settled.
He's
and that
frozen.
might drag out for a while.
Yeah, I bet they're going to try to drag him out, at least until after the election. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Isn't it? Who would ever thought that it would be Tucker Carlson would be the guy to push back against the establishment? Rachel Maddow doesn't push back against the establishment.
Neither does Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart doesn't push back against the establishment anymore, unless when it's really easy. Who else doesn't put? Nobody at CNN, nobody at MSNBC, nobody else at Fox, nobody. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Remember when Jon Stewart was the guy who humiliated Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
Because of the show they did, and he used to wear
You're hurting America with this.
You're hurting America with this, right?
Yeah.
And now it's Jon Stewart who's putting medals on Nazis, won't tell the truth about Ukraine, bullshits people about COVID policy and vaccines, and then one time he told the truth about the virus, and then he's been backtracking ever since, giving tongue baths to war criminals to make up for it.
If you're low enough on the totem pole, like he'll give you a good talking to. Like
he will. That's right.
If you're the
15th lady in charge at the Pentagon, he's going to give it to you.
He's not going to run it up the flagpole, though.
That's right. He's not going to do that to Biden.
If you're Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice, remember he brought them on a show and gave them the most softball interview I've ever seen.
Ever. I've never seen a softer interview than that.
Condi Rice even repeated the weapons of mass destruction lie, that we thought he had weapons of mass destruction, and he was, and he didn't, and he challenged that back when he was hosting the Daily Show. And right in front of her, he didn't push back at all. It
wasn't the appropriate time. She's really powerful.
Go ahead.
Here's Bill O'Reilly, former Fox News host, with his take.
Joining me now, Bill O'Reilly, the biggest star in the history of Fox News, had the number one show there. Carlson was riding that wake until today. What do you make of the announcement, Brother Bill?
You think Tucker Carlson was riding Bill O'Reilly's way? I don't think that's accurate from Chris Cuomo.
Yeah, I don't think Bill O'Reilly had more fans of Rachel Maddow watching than watch Rachel Maddow.
Exactly. Yeah. And Bill O'Reilly certainly was not challenging U.S. proxy wars and foreign policy, that's for sure.
Well, you didn't refer to me as a dog, did you? With the Hunter Thompson quote. I actually did some reporting today. It was refreshing because usually I'm analyzing, but I had a report.
Look, I have a clipboard so that I'm the guy, I'm doing work. I wanted to show, this is what reporting looks like. Did you ever see reporting before? I'm holding it up, Chris.
It's notes from my new book, Killing Tucker.
What was that about? First of all, isn't it funny how Chris Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly are now pals?
Brother Bill?
Yeah, because
Like he's Cornel West calling him Brother Bill.
Anyway, go ahead.
Find out what happened to tell the News Nation audience not to believe 90% of what they're hearing, as you pointed out. So today, as every day in the TV news business, the producers of the Tucker Carlson program and all other news shows were having their morning meeting, laying out what was going to be on this evening. All right. In the middle of that meeting, they got word that their host was not coming to work ever again. All right. So all of this BS about, well, the decision was made last week or it was made during the Dominion, that's all not true. The decision was made Sunday evening. Okay. And there were two reasons why, but I'll get to that in a moment. So Fox News did not want to remove Tucker Carlson because, as you pointed out, he was the second highest rated program on the network next to The Five, and he was the most well-known individual host. So they didn't want to move him out. But there are lawsuits coming on the wake of Dominion. They lost $800 million plus on Dominion. And now you have Smartmatic coming up, and you have two individual lawsuits, actually one filed and one that may be filed. And that was the key. So one of Tucker Carlson's producers apparently taped a whole bunch of stuff. Her lawyer went into the Fox attorneys and said, unless you pay so-and-so some money, we're going to sue you. And Fox said, we're not paying. So they filed suit in New York City, and they had the tapes, and those tapes may be released to the public.
I'll say this: there's so much turmoil at Fox that if Fox did like a behind the scenes show at Fox News, that'd be a popular show. There's a lot of drama going on.
That
there.
show
Yeah.
I'd watch.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All these people suing each other and making allegations and
Well,
hating.
you knew that Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck used to hate each other, so I would love to see them pass each other in the hall.
Yeah.
or
Did they
something.
hate each other? I didn't know that.
I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing. Of course, those guys. I bet they all hate each other.
Somebody told me that Glenn Beck has Dorothy's original slippers. I can't even.
Did you ever see? I went and saw his movie, the one man show, the sweater vest or the Christmas sweater.
Oh, I forgot about
Oh,
that. Did you forget about O'Reilly's sex harassment phone call?
Oh, but
How about the loofah?
the loofah.
No, the other thing where he goes, I just looked it up, and it's in quotes. He goes, he allegedly told her to rub a falafel thing on her
Yeah,
pussy.
falafel.
The falafel, yeah.
That's it.
yeah, yeah.
Rub
Well,
a
he
fala-
mixed
Is he
up
talking about a loofah? He's calling it a falafel thing?
exactly. Yeah, that's what it was. He
Yes.
mixed it up. Yeah.
Go get the falafel thing.
Here's some more. This is from Ed Henry, used to work at Fox, who says he spoke to Tucker Carlson, and this is what he found.
So my sense is that Tucker had become uncontrollable and that he was becoming bigger than Fox. And the Murdochs don't want any personality who's sort of out of line, bigger than them. The Dominion case and some of the texts were part of that. There's this lawsuit against Fox and Tucker. We don't know all the details, but a former producer for Maria Bartiromo was going on MSNBC and other places claiming it was a hostile workplace. Don't know anything about that. That will play out innocent until proven guilty. But my point is that Tucker, he wasn't going to listen to authority. He came out every night and challenged people in power. Even Fox management going out with those tapes on January 6th, going out against Pfizer and the pharmaceutical companies just a week ago, guys. And I would also note two other things that people are not focused on yet. About a week ago, we were in West Palm and Tucker Carlson showed up and interviewed Donald Trump when Trump hadn't been on Fox in a long time. I think he was saying, I can interview Trump if I want. I don't care if there's going to be a news blackout. And then over the weekend, the Heritage Foundation at its 50th anniversary, he was the keynote speaker. And guys, he talked about faith. He talked about religion. He said you should pray at least 10 minutes every day and that we were in a spiritual war. And Karen, we've talked about this. Roger Stone talks about this. Donald Trump talks about this. Tucker was talking about it. And I'm telling you, this Wall Street Journal story is now saying that they felt in the building that they couldn't control Tucker anymore. They're putting out spins saying that there's other messages he sent. comment about Fox executives that were vulgar. So they're going to spin their story. Let's give him a chance to respond. But my point is, he was not controllable anymore the way other primetime hosts and others may be. And I think that's the big story.
Oh, it's no doubt he was not controllable. Again, my theory is when they took away his advertisers, he found that's when he got red pilled. That's when he started to I can do whatever I want. I don't have to worry about it because they can't take away my advertisers.
Yeah, right.
And so he just started doing whatever he wanted. And of course, led to his own devices. He discovered that he and the news media are part of the problem. They're part of the control apparatus that the establishment uses. And so he at least the last couple of years since I started covering Syria in like 2017, he's been telling more truth on cable news than anybody has ever told. They fired Phil Donahue for doing similar things. Phil Donahue wasn't doing it as big as he is right now. Phil Donahue wasn't bringing on people like me to say that America is the world's terrorists.
No.
And it's on Fox News, on the number one show on Fox News, number one news host in America. He's bringing on a left-wing comedian to tell people that Russia and China aren't your enemies, that the United States is the people setting the world on fire, and we're the world's terrorists, and that our real enemy is the military-industrial complex on Fox News in prime time. That's no one else will ever do that.
And amazingly, because Tucker Carlson had some views, I think were pretty vile about immigrants. There are people on the
left. He didn't
left.
get fired for that. He could have kept his job if that's what he did.
Well, sure, exactly. But there are people on the left who attacked us for going on his show.
Yeah.
Even when, people like you, for example, were spreading that message. And by the way, not just challenging the proxy war in Ukraine, as Tucker Carlson, as he was on board with, but also you would point out that China is not our enemy either. And that also contradicted some of the stuff that Tucker Carlson and his guests were saying. And you were given a platform constantly to push that message. So this was a show that genuinely allowed anti-war views. And I'll never get the leftist voices who would just dismiss all that as if it wasn't important to go in front of 5 million people and air an anti-war message and air facts that are centered everywhere else on these important issues.
Well, because when you were doing that, you were doing it from outside the establishment to go on Tucker's show, and Tucker was bringing you on going outside the establishment. So you had everybody inside the establishment attacking you. And most people who vote for Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton are inside the establishment. They're Democrats. And so they subscribe to the establishment. They like the establishment. They participate in it. And people like you and Tucker, when they get outside of it, they pilloried them. When Tucker was doing the worst work he did, everybody loved him. He was on Dancing with the Stars.
That's right.
Right.
I forgot.
And then as soon as he started telling the truth is when they really started coming at him hard. And you talk about, you say he has vile views on immigration. I don't think they were any more vile than Bernie Sanders, 26. If you go back to Bernie Sanders, he was saying open borders is a right-wing trick and they want to bring in cheap labor to undermine Americans. That's basically what Tucker Carlson says.
The guy that
and by the way, the great replacement theory, as far as I can, because they say that
they put that out. The people that are for it put it out as, hey, great news.
100%, Kurt.
Hari Kondabolu has a comedy album called Waiting for 2030 or something,
and
which is when the replacement
is going to happen.
And it's literally like, you guys, are you saying this isn't happening, or they should be happy or upset?
I was, by the way, when
I was cool with it, by the way.
Me too. When the Democrats would say demographics is destiny. Meaning that we're going to turn Texas blue because we're going to have so many Hispanics in Texas that we'll be able to. But the problem is a lot of Hispanics vote conservative too. They don't realize that. But anyway, but they
didn't want to be called Latinx after all.
I guess they didn't.
So they would brag about doing the great replacement theory.
The Democrats would brag about doing the great replacement. And he's just mentioned that guy's
I remember that vividly.
Special.
It was the big news. It was when Kamau Bell was still on. And that was the big thing. Like, everyone's going to be. So they, like I said, I was cool with that.
I was cool with that too.
I don't give a rat's ass about.
I don't mind being
who lives here when I'm dead.
That's right.
But that was a thing that they pushed a lot, and then all of a sudden pretended like it was not openly said. It's like conspiracy.
Yeah. So that and then when people like Tucker would go, yeah, that's what they're doing. That they're trying to allow his theory was they're trying to flood America with illegal immigrants so they can then vote for Democrats, and that's how they're gonna. That's the theory, right? That's the replacement theory.
Yeah.
And they
made and by the way, that again, like Kurt and I noticed the Democrats were the one pushing this.
Hey,
And
poor immigrants, it turned out, don't have 6-figure debt higher educations that teach them drivel. So they don't tend to go with that if you're worried about it.
So one time I was on Tucker, and right before he brought me on, he did a thing about how the criminal justice system is not racist. And so when he came to me, I couldn't not say something. So I did. I said, hey, we have the we're the world's largest penal colony, and blah, 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 and you can, two things can be true at the same time. Like there's something in some incident he was speaking about that could not be because of racism, but our criminal justice system is definitely racist. Just look at the numbers. And he goes, all right, I don't want to argue with you about that.
Yeah.
So, and then we moved on.
We purposely zoned all the neighborhoods so that Scott Adams wouldn't have to run too far.
Yeah.
But that's what they point to when they make him out to be Hitler. And I'm like, well, you should play Bill Clinton speeches about Mexican immigrants from the 90s, because and how about when Hillary Clinton called black people super predators, and they need to be brought, doesn't matter how they got that way, but they first need to be brought to heel. Remember, she said that about black kids. Well,
yes, absolutely. And
you
also,
can still say all that stuff. That's the thing that gets me is if he was playing his loyal opposition part, how he should be playing it, he'd be there while the View's complaining forever.
So what?
He'd still be there.
So the point Kurt is making is that he actually he would be allowed to say all that stuff that certain people could consider racist and whatever if he stuck to his Republican team, but he challenged the Republican Party, and he even said at his Heritage speech that the weekend he got fired, he goes, "I'm not saying I'm a Republican," like that.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is unbelievable to hear.
And he defended the indicted African, African Socialist Party, by the DOJ. Yeah,
and so Kurt's point is that if he was playing ball and being a loyal Republican, he would never be fired, but he didn't. He went against the Republicans and the Democrats, and then he's a populist. He has the people on his side. Again, more Democrats watch him in the demo than watch Rachel Maddow, but he's not going to have the establishment, and he knew it was coming. That was an amazing clip when he predicted that he was going to be squashed, and they did squash him.
All my friends are still working that stuff. They all know not to talk too much about the Seymour. That New York Times thing, maybe it's in everybody's best interest not to look into. They all abide by that, and they haven't been told. They know not to do that.
We're telling jokes in Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Chicago, Rosemont, San Diego, and more. Go to jimmydore.com to get a link for all those tickets. Plus, you can watch my new special, COVID Lies Are Funny.